Welcome everybody to another episode of Top to Bottom. Today we're going to be reviewing the new Eminem album, Music to be Murdered by Side B, aka the Deluxe Edition. Now I do want to address that I call this a new album, but it's not really, it's just a deluxe edition of the album. However, it does play more like a new album in the sense that there are so many more new tracks. I don't know, if you want to consider it an album, you can consider it an album. I kind of do consider it a new album, but I also am kind of conflicted on whether or not I should call it that. It really is just an album under the same name as the original album, just Side B, whatever. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But anyway, yes, Eminem did decide to essentially drop the deluxe edition of his previously released album, Music to be Murdered by, which actually came out earlier this year, at the very beginning of this year. I actually really enjoyed the first half of this album, so when I heard that a side B was going to be dropped, I was quite excited, hoping that it was actually going to be even better than the first, hopefully. And do I think it's better than the first? I guess we'll have to wait until the end of this video. If you guys are new to Top to Bottom, what I do here is I take an album and I list out in order my least favorite song to my most favorite song, and at the end of the video I will give you guys my overall thoughts paired up with a score. But anyway, without further ado, let's hop into the review. There are 13 songs on this album if you exclude the skits, and at the 13th spot we have Black Magic. In my personal opinion, I think this is a pretty weak opener to the album. In fact, I would probably say it's the worst opening track to land on any Eminem album. I could think of any other album from Eminem and I usually really like the first song. It's usually one of my favorites on the album, but not on this album. This is my least favorite track. Skylar Grey is featured on this song, and usually I don't have a problem with her features, usually I like her, but this is one of the rare instances where she just doesn't do anything for me on this song. Her part on this song is very boring and sounds like the most generic feature she has ever delivered on an Eminem song. On top of that, the beat is pretty bland. I mean, nothing to write home about. The subject matter on this song as well is just so overdone at this point. I get major deja vu listening to this song because how many times is Eminem going to make a song like this? It's a relationship cut that sounds like so many other relationship cuts that he's released up to this point in his career. I will say that the end of the second verse isn't too bad. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that old Slim Shady persona with the sound of throats being slit and women screaming while Shady seems completely unbothered by it. Overall though, I was not a fan of this one whatsoever. It's just not good enough, especially for an opening track considering how good Eminem usually is with opening tracks to his albums. In the number 12 spot, we have Tone Deaf. I think this song really lives up to its title because it is yet again another boring track. The beat sounds really unexciting on this one. The beat also sounds kind of cheap, and that doesn't make sense considering that this is Eminem we're talking about. I just wish it had been mixed a little bit better. It doesn't really feel like it has any oomph to it. The hook on this track is alright, but still nothing amazing. In terms of M's ability to put words together and rhyme, I mean, that's still here, and there are some moments that I find to be pretty funny, specifically that part where he made fun of the orange meme where he tried to rhyme orange and banana and came up with Born Nana. I thought that was pretty funny. And overall, I do think that this song has some redeeming qualities here and there, but it's just not enough to keep me engaged, and it's just another skipper for me. In the number 11 spot, we have These Demons. A very basic and generic trap beat appears here. The first verse on this song sees Eminem poking fun at critics again, which is kind of getting just a little bit old at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I liked Kamikaze, and I really liked that he was aggressive and going at everybody who came at him. However, this is the third album since then. We had Kamikaze, which was the first album where he was poking fun at critics. He did it a little bit on Music to be Murdered by, which is like, okay, whatever, you know, it's after Kamikaze, so if he has, you know, a song or two that's poking fun at critics, I don't mind. but this is the third album. A lot of people said that Eminem sounded bitter on Kamikaze, and I can totally see that. However, it didn't really bother me, but it does bother me that it has been so long since that album. I say so long, it was only 2 years ago, but it's been like 2.5 years since that album, and a longer time since Revival. And he's still poking fun at critics. Eminem's bitterness on an album like Kamikaze didn't bother me too much. However, it does bother me here because it's just been so long at this point. Like, I feel like he should kind of get over it. And I know he's doing it in a pretty fun way, and I do understand where he's coming from. Like, I do understand the criticisms that he has. They do seem to change goalposts here and there and stuff like that, but I don't know. I just don't want to hear it anymore at this point. I just want him to move on from it. There are a few bars here about inequality in America, specifically about how black people are dying in the streets, yet white people, all they want is haircuts. The MAJ or Maj feature, I'm not too sure how you say his name because I have never heard of him prior to this song. His feature sounds very Travis Scott influenced, but again, it's kind of bland and sounds like many other auto-tuned choruses that you can find. The third verse on this track is pretty hit or miss. There are some good lines though, like the opening Pariah line where, you know, he's asking what rhymes with Pariah. Obviously, Mariah Carey. We all know the story about her and Eminem. And I also like the ICP R. Kelly wordplay in this verse. I thought that was pretty funny. But there are also some misses here as well, like the shin below knee line. I thought that one was kind of eye-rolling. In the end, this song just kind of comes off as filler to me, not enough to keep me entertained. In the number 10 spot, we have She Loves Me. This song is very reminiscent of Relapse Eminem. The beat is very clearly produced by Dr. Dre. I mean, you don't even need to check. It's pretty infectious. The chorus is alright, I could take it or leave it. I can say the same about the rapping as well. There's really not much to say here. It's not terrible, but not great either. It is a fun song that is a bit of a throwback, but unfortunately I find it to be a little bit forgetful as well. In the number 9 spot, we have Killer. Eminem essentially tries to make a club song on this one, and really I can't deny that it is pretty catchy to some degree, but I just don't really think M fits this type of sound. There are also some pretty bad lines on here, probably my least favorite being, "Got money up my ass, call it toilet paper." But to speak on some more lines, there were some more that I liked as well. I particularly found the Cinderella ball line to be pretty hilarious. Ultimately, I can kind of see this song working out though, especially if you're not paying too much attention to the lyrics, because it is undeniably a pretty fun song. But again, I don't really know if clubs are going to be playing Eminem in 2020. I mean, don't ask me, maybe they will, because I don't personally go to clubs. I have no intention of doing so maybe they will. But regardless, even if they were playing this song at a club, I would feel pretty indifferent to it because that is how I feel about the song as a whole. In the number 8 spot, we have Higher. We have a really loud and abrasive rock rap beat here. It kind of reminds me a little bit of some moments off of Marshall Mathers LP2. This track is very obviously meant to be performed live. The chorus is quite catchy and sounds like it would be insane at a concert. However, I only think the verses are okay. The flow is a bit choppy, which kind of kills them for me. Also, Sly Piper's verse seems like a slightly unnecessary addition. Overall, I'm either in the mood for this track or I'm not. It is a very hard-hitting song with good aspects to it, and it is a really good pump-me-up song. In the number 7 spot, we have Favorite Bitch. I like the scarce and cold-sounding trap beat on this cut. The first verse isn't too bad, although I didn't like how M ended the verse by saying, "You're letting them fiddle with your clitoris." Initially, the Ty Dolla $ign chorus had to grow on me a little bit, but I actually think he sings pretty nicely on it. The second and third verse are a bit weaker in my opinion. There are some decent bars, but equally as many really whack ones. For example, he says, "Now I'm on a roll like a tootsie." Also, we have "Tell her it's a butt dial girl, yeah, booty call." In the end though, I think that this track is okay, but there are a fair number of unflattering moments. In the number 6 spot, we have Guns Blazing. The chorus on here with Dr. Dre and Sly Piper is actually pretty good, although maybe some of the vocal effects could have been changed a bit. Although it's nothing crazy, I will say that Dre's verse here is also pretty good. I feel pretty much the same about Eminem's performance, but when it comes to the subject matter on this song, again, it is another relationship cut. and that is getting so tiring at this point. I don't love this track either, I just like it slightly more than Favorite Bitch. Breaking into the top 5, we have Zeus. This is the most depressing song on the album, very toned down and a little bit more personal for Marshall. The first verse starts pretty tame but slowly builds up, and towards the end of the verse, M's flow becomes very smooth, and I actually love how he sounded on that part. He apologizes to Rihanna for a leaked song making fun of the Chris Brown situation, and I'm personally glad that he did apologize for that because I did think it was pretty insensitive. The chorus by White Gold is good. It kind of just acts as a bridge to seal the verses together and adds to that theme of Marshall feeling lonely. The final verse to me is the most interesting. Essentially, Eminem offers a word of wisdom to a range of different artists from Drake to Migos to Future, basically saying that one day people will start to turn their backs on them as artists and it's only a matter of time until it does happen. The end of the verse is really surprising. M throws a jab at Snoop Dogg, most likely because of his comments on an interview a while back where he said that he doesn't personally believe that Eminem is top 10. I think this further adds to the theme of how as an artist eventually you will have people that turn their backs on you, but Eminem just didn't expect someone like Snoop Dogg, who was originally in his camp, in his corner, to say something like that. I really like this one. I thought it was definitely interesting to hear where M's head has been recently. In the number 4 spot, we have Book of Rhymes. We open up the track with a trap beat that is a bit generic, but I still quite like it. The only other gripes I have with this song are the start of the hook, specifically just the first line. I just wasn't a big fan of the delivery there, and also the testy wordplay that he used twice on the song, which I just thought was kind of unnecessary. Considering that Eminem sounds like he's trying to be a little bit more serious on this song, a corny bar like that just kind of doesn't really slide with me. I generally don't have a problem with the first verse other than the fact that there are a few iffy lines. I personally think that the delivery is really good, and once again he is poking fun at critics. However, I actually don't mind it on this track. Additionally, there are some pretty witty lines in here. I especially liked the mill wordplay. The end of the first verse is amazing and goes really hard. I especially loved the delivery when he said, "Lone sniper, I hold a microphone like a loaded rifle." I love the way he added a little pause in between microphone. I don't know, it just hit on so many levels. The second verse is great too. The beat becomes more tame with chilling piano notes. What stands out on the second verse is M's awesome flow. DJ Premier's scratches were also a nice touch at the end of the song. In the number 3 spot, we have Alfred's theme. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the weirdest beat I've ever heard Eminem spit on. I'm not gonna lie, initially my first reaction was, what is this Willy Wonka shit? But as I listened more times, this track has grown on me to be one of my favorites. On this album, this is maybe the closest we get to that classic Slim Shady era Eminem. His delivery is playful, comical, very zany, which I think translates really well here. And there are tons of corny bars. However, I actually don't mind that much on this song, because the difference between corny lines on other songs on this album and corny lines on this song is because a lot of the times the reason I have a problem with corny lines is if Eminem is taking himself way too serious. You can't come at me with this really aggressive style trying to sound really tough while spitting really corny bars. But on this song, where he sounds like he's really kicking it back to that Slim Shady style, where he's being more playful and comical, as I said, the corny bars here aren't corny as much as they are just really funny. So yes, I actually think the corny bars in this song are a huge positive. Shady's flow is actually really good on this track, especially when the drums kick in over the beat. The whole thing just gets me bobbing my head. The lyrics on this song are actually really funny at times. A line that me and Ayeshi burst out laughing when we first heard it was the bathroom stall line, saying that he's at the mall and he's got your bitch in a bathroom stall, she could suck a basketball through a plastic straw with a fractured jaw. Man, that shit is fucking hilarious. To speak more about the lyricism on this song, while not every line is a mind blower, it is crazy how almost every single line on this track contains some sort of wordplay. In terms of M's technical ability, it is wildly on display here. I loved this track. While I didn't love the production at first, it grew on me a lot, and Marshall's performance is very entertaining. In the number 2 spot, we have Discombobulated. First thing I have to say is that this is a major Relapse throwback. Eminem brings back that Relapse accent for a few lines, which is actually pretty cool. Although I will say that the first time I heard this, I didn't like it because I thought that he was going to do it for the entire song, which is a big issue I had with Relapse, is that not only would he do it for entire songs, but he would do it for the majority of the album, which got a bit tiring. However, the fact that he brought it back for just a few lines on that hook is really cool. It was a blast from the past. And the production on this one is just crazy. Dr. Dre's production is fantastic as usual. This track is so Relapse-like that honestly it could fit nicely into that album. The rapping is solid and M is flowing really well over this energetic beat. I love the chorus that's on this thing as well. It is the most Slim Shady moment on this album and my favorite hook too. I absolutely love the back and forth vocals of no, yes, no, yes. M decides to take a few more digs at Ja Rule in the second verse, and I actually find what he says to be really funny. I'm going to display the lyrics right here for you guys to see. The only thing I don't like on this song is the middle of the final verse where M's voice is skipping a lot. Luckily, afterwards, it is made up for a lot when the beat changes to something a lot moodier and darker with M flowing very smoothly on top. Absolutely one of my favorite tracks, an amazing throwback that is entertaining throughout. And finally, at the number 1 spot, my favorite song on the album, Nat. This song's pretty fucking fresh. The beat on this thing is killer, and the 2 beat switches we get at the end are fucking crazy. M's laid back, controlled, and cold delivery fits perfectly over this laid back trap instrumental. His flow is also really smooth and I love it. Some of the lines and wordplay here are really dope too, specifically that dope fiend line. Holy shit. The only minor issue I have with this track is the chorus. I do like it overall, I just don't like the COVID lines. But yeah, overall, easily my favorite track on the album. Fucking fantastic. So yeah, that has been every track, and as you can tell, it's a pretty mixed bag with this deluxe album. To answer the question at the beginning of the video of whether or not I like this album as much or more than the original, no, by pretty large margin, I enjoyed this quite a bit less. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this thing is horrible, however, I do think it leaves a good bit to be desired. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, if you guys follow me on Twitter, the first time I listened to this album, I thought it was awful. I actually almost thought it was worse than Revival. Actually, no, I did think it was worse than Revival the first time I listened to it, and I was like, I hope that this grows on me after I listen a few more times, because when I first listened to this thing, God, the only track I liked was Nat. I made a really trigger-happy tweet that I'm going to show you guys right here. As you can see, I absolutely despised this album the first time I heard it, but I'm quite happy to announce that it has grown on me a significant amount. With that being said though, I absolutely do not think this thing is fantastic by any means. I actually think it is a very flawed album. Yes, there are some pretty amazing moments on here, some really quality tracks, but I feel like my feelings towards this album were described very well by CDTV Productions and his review of this deluxe side album. What he said in his video was that this album doesn't reach the lows that the first half had, but it also doesn't reach the highs that the first half had. My biggest critique with this album is I feel like a significant portion of this project is just throwaway tracks from previous albums, or at least that's how it sounds like to me. It doesn't really sound like a lot of effort went into some of the weaker songs. And another big critique that I have is just some of the subject matter on this album, and I get it. Eminem is 20 years into his career at this point. I understand that it is hard to find something to talk about, and I completely empathize with that. But at the same time, it did lead to some pretty uninteresting and boring songs. Overall though, I did enjoy this album. I just didn't love it, and I really wish it was a little bit better. I feel like Eminem can do a lot better than this, but at the same time, I am trying to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt considering that this is a deluxe album. It is just a side B. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and keep in mind that this is just my opinion. If you like the album more than I do, honestly, I am so happy for you. I wish I liked it as much as you. In terms of my final rating on this album, I'm feeling a 6 out of 10. I thought it was alright. I didn't think it was horrible, but I do wish that there was just a little bit more. But yeah, that has been Eminem, Music to be Murdered By, Side B Deluxe Edition, top to bottom, finished. I'm gonna wrap this video up here. So yeah guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you smack the like button. If you want to stay up to date with my content, please be sure to subscribe. I'll have my last video in the corner. If you haven't checked that out already, definitely make sure to check it out. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.